You can't be certain of anything in the world at the moment. We are living in very volatile and actually quite dangerous times. One of the things I say about winning is you have to, three things. You have to have an objective, you have to have a strategy, and only when you've got those two do you go tactical. And I do worry that too often we kind of confuse strategy and tactics. Here's my nightmare scenario. Britain out of Europe, I think that's a bad enough nightmare. But it then, I think, will inevitably lead to the breakup of the United Kingdom. Because when Nicola Sturgeon talks about, to be absolutely frank, I think she would have been entitled, on the back of winning 56 out of 59 seats in a general election, to say that is a significant factor. That is a change. And we are entitled to have another referendum. The fact she's not doing it says to me they still don't think they can win. Okay? But they went from sort of 70-30 in the polls, and you're right to be very sceptical about polls for all sorts of obvious reasons. They went from 70-30 to, on the day, 55-45. Now, what does that say about a trend? It says it's going in one way. Look at the age demographics, and older people are more likely to vote to stay, Scotland stay in the UK. So that is a debate that is not settled. Now, we always like referendums to settle debates. It's not settled. Business should lead the way on this. Business had a really important role to play in the Scottish referendum when push came to shove, when that wobble happened. It's actually, yes, Gordon Brown made a big impact with that speech that he made, but business had a big impact in coming out and saying, listen, this is not good for Scotland. This is not good for the UK. And I hope business will take more of a lead in the debate on Europe. There's something about this kind of anti-politics mood. People don't want to like politicians. They don't want to like brands that are parties. It's happening all around the world. I wish it wasn't, but it is. Most people don't obsess about politics all the time. They dip in and out. They hear, they listen, they get on with their own lives, and messages kind of cement in their minds, and then when it comes to a big decision, they'll come into it. That's why I hope on Europe. I hope people ignore all the noise, the propaganda. I hope actually eventually they do get to the point that Manish said, you know, we need the information, we want to make this decision, but, you know, I wouldn't rule out. I don't think we should be at all complacent about that. I think there's a real sense of London becoming a separate country, London, the other big cities, and then the rest of the country. And I think we're not cognizant enough of the potential social consequences that come from that unless it's addressed. So it is definitely the right road to go, but it's got to be more than just setting up local authorities who find they won't necessarily have the funding, they won't necessarily have the power. Diplomacy is partly about getting inside the heads of other leaders, being there all the time. So if you're the American president and you're making a big decision, who do they think of if it's going to affect us? Who do they think of? And I think for Europe at the moment, they think Merkel and they think Brussels. And I think that goes for an awful lot of people around the world. They think Merkel and they think Brussels. Merkel is it surprised me doing this as a kind of left-of-centre person, but I single her out as I think the most impressive leader on the world stage at the moment. But in terms of our political, diplomatic clout, a lot of it comes through Europe. And I genuinely worry that if we come out of Europe, that is what then gives the SNP the utterly legitimate right to have a second referendum, and what's more, I think they could win it. So you end up with the UK minus Scotland out of Europe. I think we stop being that serious a country.